Welcome, one and all, to the deck profile for, as you can guess, the Digimon card game. So, this is, of course, the deck that I constructed using a combination of cards that I've obtained from BT04? Yeah, '04. Great Legend, which I did a video on way back. But also, some cards that I ended up getting off screen prior to that video. So, to start the video off, let's start with the, let's see. Let's start with the Digitama first. Go in that order. To start, here are the two green Digitamas. Let me just move the camera back a bit. So here are the two green Digitamas. First up is Budmon, whose inherent effect means that while this Digimon has Digiburst, it gets plus 1000 DP. Of course, the way my deck is currently constructed, and considering this is a green card, this ain't really going to be of help as much, but when BT08 is released and Master Tyrannosaurus becomes a thing, this deck might be a bit more, viable. The other one is Freemon, which has the ability of when on your turn, while your opponent has two or more suspended Digimon in play, this Digimon gets plus 2000 power, which is probably going to be helpful at some point, considering the opponent is probably going to have two suspended Digimons if they're going to punch me in the face. But again, this ability probably not going to be as helpful at the moment, but when Master Tyrannomon and other dual color Digimons are released, this ability might be of help to the stars of the deck. Next up is Sakutomon. Right here, Sakutomon has the ability of, when attacking once per turn, if this Digimon is a level 7, gain 1 memory. Since I don't have any level 7s, this one's more so like a placeholder until I can get other red Digitamas, which I have, so don't expect to see that guy for very long. And lastly, for Digitamas, we have two Agamons. Let's move on out of the way since they're both the same. Alright, Babidomon is really one of the more useful Digitamas of this deck, because little ability is, on your turn while this Digimon has Piercing, it gains plus 2000 power. I just so happen to have a Digimon that has Piercing. So that's Digitama. Again, they're more so meant for being able to get the Digimons out rather than using their inherited effects. Next up, Tamers. To start off with, we have the two green Tamers, starting with Taiga. Taiga's security effect is play this card without paying its memory cost. Duh. But what's really interesting, and this is where that piercing effect comes in, on your turn, all of your Digimon with Tyrannomon in their names gains piercing, meaning they can pretty much do damage directly to the opponent if they win a battle and survive, of course. The other ability is when digivolving one of your Digimon into a Digimon card in your hand with Tyrannomon in its name, you can suspend this Tamer to reduce the memory cost of the Digivolution by 1. As you can guess, I have Tyrannomons. Yeah, you often see Taiga used in red-green Tyrannomon decks, and for good reason. I mean, come on, look at that smile. Plus, that ability is just whoo, whoo. If you want an example of red-green aggro, red-green Tyrannosaurus decks are something else. Next up, Yoshino Fujieda, who has the same security effect, but the ability is, on play, return one Digi-Egg card from your trash to the bottom of your Digi-Egg deck. Pretty helpful. Like a makeshift Monster Reborn, basically. Albeit, you have to actually play Yoshino in order for the effect to work, so you're gonna have to pick which Digitama I choose to revive, so a bit more strategic there. What doesn't require much strategy is, on your turn, when digivolving one of your Digimon into a Digimon card in your hand with Digiburst, you may suspend this tamer to reduce the Digivolution cost by 1. I have not 1, but 2 Digiburst cards, and you're going to see them later on. Yoshino isn't the only tamer with a Digiburst related ability. Behold, the boy, the man, the myth, the legend, Marcus Damon. I have 2 of them. And fun fact, these are the only 2 red tamer cards I have. So, yeah, my plans for making a red-blue deck down the line is going to be put on hold. So, in the meantime, Marcus, on the start of your turn, if you have 2 memory or less, set your memory to 3. That's going to be helpful. Definitely. Start on your turn when one of your Digimon with Greymon in its name attacks. My brain just went dumb for a moment there. You may suspend this tamer to gain 1 memory. Of course, this goes for all Greymons with the following exceptions: Doru Greymon, Burning Greymon, or Dexdoru Greymon. So, sucks to be them. But yeah. Next up, option cards. The ones people tend to not really give much of a shit about. Start off, Hidden Potential Discovered, whose security effect is to add this card to your hand. So, if I end up taking damage, at least I get this. The effect is, on your main phase, next time one of your green Digimon digivolves, this turn, you may suspend one of your Digimon to reduce the memory costs of the Digivolution by 5. And considering Green's specialty, you can probably put 2 and 2 together. I can get some good green, get some of my later stage greens out pretty early. Nuclear Laser, which doesn't really have a security effect, so. But the effect is, on the main phase, trigger, draw 2, and then one of your Digimon gets plus 2000 DP. For those wondering what DP is basically their power. Basically, those who remember Kaijudo / Duel Masters, or even those who play Card 5 Vanguard, might be able to understand it much better than those who are familiar with the big 3. But anyway, this card is mostly here so that way I can get access to the later stage forms a lot quicker, and it serves as a nifty power boost to any Digimon I already have available. Of course, I have 2 Atomic Infernos with the security effect of all Digimons gain security attack plus 1, so that's pretty neat. Until the end of turn, of course, duh. But, of course, that's not what we care about. The effect here of importance is, on the main phase, one of your Digimon with Hybrid in its form gets 3000 DP, security attack plus 1, and your turn, when this Digimon is blocked, gain plus 3 memory for the turn. Guess what I have? If you guess Burning Greymon, you're correct. So, there's that. I have 2 of these, so that's going to be helpful. Dimension Scissors, same security effect as Hidden Potential. But of course, this effect is on the main phase. When one of your Digimon gains the following effect for the turn, when this Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle and survives, unsuspended. So, Yeah, that's gonna be pretty helpful. Of course, this is also the reason why, in terms of the reason why I have both red and green option cards, it's the same reason why I have red and green tamers, is because of the option cards. That's why. Great Tornado, again, add to your hand is the security effect. We do not give a shit. But the main phase, the regular effect, is what we do care about. Since its effect is, on main phase, one of your Digimon gets plus 2000 DP and security attack plus 1 for the turn. This is going to be helpful for dealing out massive damage. Here's the second Atomic Inferno. Of course, the reason why I have both green tamers and red tamers is not just because of the option cards, which requires a tamer or Digimon of the matching color to use. So there's that. But luckily, with BT08 being right around the corner, we wouldn't necessarily have to worry about option cards much. That little restriction isn't going to be much of a hassle anymore, making dual color decks much more viable. I'll explain why I chose to go with a dual color deck at the end of the video. So, alright, now for the main stars of this deck. To start off, we have two Agamon experts, whose ability is, on play, return one Digimon card with Agamon, its name, from your recycle bin to your hand. Of course, Agamon expert here is meant to be a sort of starting Digimon, not really meant, as well as meant for reviving other Agamon, so that way we don't necessarily have any options. So Greymon, whose security effect, god damn it, inherit effect is, on your turn, while there are 5 or more cards in your opponent's trash, this Digimon gets 1000 DP. That is going to be helpful because we are going to be going full aggro with red, with green basically serving as the sort of defense part of this deck. Next up, a little birdie named Biomon, whose inherit effect is, on your turn, when this Digimon is blocked, it gets 2000 DP. Of course, again, when it comes to, well, rookie stage Digimon, they're really meant to, like, get the game started. Next up, two of the great legend Agamons. Personally, I really like this design for Agamon more than the original design for Agamon, but that's just me, personally. Of course, the inherit effect is, on your turn, when this card is trashed due to the activation of the Digimon's Digiburst, return this card to the owner's hand. So, we don't need to worry about this when it comes to Agamon Expert. However, what Agamon Expert might be helpful for is Black Agamon, who doesn't have any effect, by the way. Also, I think this picture here of him is cute. Also, I main him in Rumble Arena 2. Try to fight me. I dare you. Speaking of cute pictures of Agamon, two green Agamons. The little Dino Boy's getting all the love here. This green Agamon's effect is, on your turn, this Digimon gets 1000 DP. So, simple power boost, which is to be expected from a red-green deck. Those who've ever faced off against red-green decks in other TCGs know what to expect. Big meaty Digimon, big meaty creatures, and, of course, lots of damage. Speaking of damage, Koagamon, who's currently undergoing something, I don't know what he's doing. But the inherit effect is, on your turn, while this Digimon is level 6 or higher, it gains security attack plus 1. Of course, I only really have one green Mega Stage Digimon, and you're going to see him later on. So this effect won't be as helpful, but again, hopefully down the line when dual color cards become more and more common, that effect might be more helpful. And the last of the rookies, we have Dokunemon, who is just vibing at the moment, whose effect is, on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add a 1 Digimon card with Digiburst among them to your hand, and place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. This right here is going to be of great help for getting the one of the main stars of the deck out quickly. This deck's specialty is pretty much to get the big stage Digimon out as quickly as possible, so that way I can dish out a lot of damage. And of course, next up we have champions. For champions, we have 3 Fugamon. Of course, one thing about this deck that's also worth pointing out is that there are a lot of champion stage Digimons that are of low cost. So champion stages that are easy to summon to make up for the fact that champions outnumber rookies. Of course, nothing really to say about Fugamon, but Sunflowmon does have some words to say. Main effect, Digiburst 2. I completely forgot Sunflowmon has Digiburst 2, by the way, and I'm the one who made this deck. Anyway, main effect, Digiburst 2. Trash 2 of this Digimon's Digivolution cards to activate the following effect. 1 of your opponent's suspended Digimon and doesn't unsuspend during your opponent's next unsuspend phase. So, pretty helpful, but not as helpful as some other abilities that we have. 1 Black Greymon, and yes, I'm calling him Black Greymon instead of Greymon Blue as he's called now, because, well, I played Rumble Arena 2, and that's what he was called. But anyway, Greymon here, security effect. At the end of the battle, play this card without paying its memory cost, which, of course, is going to be helpful in case this guy does end up as security. We can at the very least play this big guy early. If not, we still have our rookies to fall back on. Nothing to worry about. Next up, 2 Burning Greymons, whose ability is you may digivolve this card from your hand onto one of your red tamers, as if the tamer was a level 3 Digimon on your turn. We are not going to be doing that because we need our tamers, obviously. But what we are going to do is, your turn, this Digimon gets plus the 3000 DP. So we're not going to be doing the first effect where we can digivolve Burning Greymon onto via one of our tamers, because we need our tamers. So we won't be using that effect. What we are likely to be using is Kabutarymon's effect, specifically the Inherit effect, which is, on your turn, this Digimon gets 1000 DP for every suspended Digimon on your opponent's field. So, basically, the more Digimons that are suspended, the more powerful we'll get. Here's Agamons, who has, on play, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. So this, combined with Kabutarymon's Inherit effect, will definitely be of help. And now the reason why we have Taiga. Triple the Tyrannomons. Look at this. Glorious fire-breathing Tyrannosaurus. Anyway, starting off. Oh, shit. The effect, when digivolving, reveal 3 cards from the top of your deck, add 1 level 5 Digimon and 1 green Tamer card amongst them to your hand. Place the remaining cards at the bottom deck in any order. So, basically, these are meant to not just get our level 5s out, but also so that way we can digivolve our level 5s right away, but also that way we have access to our tamers as quickly as possible. So, that's basically Tyrannosaurus. Nothing really much to say. And the last of our champions, Dark Tyrannomon, who's just here because he's badass looking. I mean, come on, look at that image. Yeah, man, that is cool. So yeah, that's all the champions. Now for ultimates, starting with Wargroup, whose inherent effect is when there are 5 or more of your opponent's cards in your opponent's trash, which is likely, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP. As for the passive effect, when digivolving, if you have a red tamer in play, delete one of her opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less. So pretty good for wiping the opponent's board off of the field, as long as they're like, I don't know, a champion or a rookie, more so a rookie. In other words, pretty much preventing your opponent from crap, what was it? Oh yeah, from digivolving in the first place. Unless, much like my deck, they also have some low cost champions as well, so that's gonna pose a problem. But we also have Greymon, whose ability is on play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with blocker. So basically, if I'm going up against a player that's using a black deck, because, well, black has a lot of blockers, that color in particular has a lot of blockers, second only to maybe yellow, if I recall correctly. Still new to this, but still. Also, the one thing I could think of that can actually counter both Guilmon and Wargroumon's like inherent effects would, to my knowledge, be purple, since purple can indeed revive Digimons from the trash pile. So that might be one counter I'm going to have to try and figure out how to deal with. Next up, Kabutarymon, whose ability is, when attacking, gain 1 memory. Alright, pretty straightforward. Nothing too special to talk about. Next up, Mega Kabutarymon, whose inherent effect is, when attacking, if your opponent has 2 or more suspended Digimon, gain 1 memory. So, again, pretty helpful for when and we do end up having to face opponents, and if their Digimons are suspended, we'll get not just a power boost, but we also gain memory. Yeah, power boost from Kabutarymon and a memory boost from Mega Kabutarymon. So that's pretty helpful. Alright, next up, Volksdramon, whose inherent effect is security attack +1. Pretty standard, but could be pretty helpful. There is a second Skull Greymon that I have as well, so there's that as well. Nothing really much to say. Also, fun fact, I actually thought I had 3 Agamon experts. I had to do like multiple recounts of my deck because I thought I was short 1 card. So, true story. And of course, Metal Tyrannomon, final ultimate stage we have. Just like Dark Tyrannomon, he's here because he looks cool. But now we get to the actual damage dealers, the stars of the deck. Behold, Victory Greymon, whose ability is, when digivolving, Digiburst 2. And the following effect will occur. Delete one of your opponent's Digimon that has 8000 DP or less, which is helpful for, like, I don't know, hold on. For, like, anything below, like, Mega Stage. And, of course, combine that with the 12,000 DP, as well as the inherent effects that can occur. Hold on, there you go. This will definitely, I think Victory Greymon will be of definitely help. 2 Shine Greymons, whose ability is, on your turn, when one of your red or yellow tamers we have red, is suspended. This Digimon gains security attack +1 for the turn. And since we have 2 of these with 11,000 power, oh yeah, we're trying to go for that big damage. I'll explain, like, what the overall strategy for this deck is supposed to be. Here's our one and only green Mega, Volksdramon, whose effect is, on deletion, suspend up to 2 of your opponent's Digimon. So there's that. And of course, the last Mega, which is Phoenixmon, which has security attack +1. And, of course, when attacking, when this Digimon attacks a player, draw 2. So that is the deck. The overall strategy for this deck is basically to get the late stage Digimons out as quickly as possible and just lay down the pain, just lay down the damage. So basically, if you're familiar with Red, Green, and Magic the Gathering, yeah, basically that. Get those big, powerful Digimons out as quickly as possible and just lay down the pain. Of course, when multicolored cards like, say, Master Tyrannosaurus become more common, I think decks like this would be much easier to run. And sorry if my camera's shaking. I'm currently on my bed because this has the best lighting. In the meantime, appreciate this amazing card art, if you will. But anyway, but yeah, as multicolored Digimon become more common, I do think we are going to see some more multicolored decks. And whenever more red-green Digimons become a thing, I'm definitely going to make changes to this deck to reflect that. So don't be surprised if you might see a bit of an update on my blog over on Tumblr. So yeah, yes, I have a Tumblr now since Twitter's been compromised. Fuck you, Musk. Anyway, current events aside, now let's get on to the big question. Why did I make this deck? Well, let me tell you something. In order to understand, I need to bring up one other card game. That card game is Magic the Gathering. So, I actually used to play Magic the Gathering casually back in high school, usually against my aunt, one of my aunts, who uses a black-white deck. My deck is red-green, obviously. And if anybody wants to see what my red-green deck is, spoiler warning, I don't think it's competitively viable. It's just meant for casual curb stomping because it's a red-green deck. What do you expect? But I found that red-green fits very well with my overall playstyle of just summoning big creatures as quickly as possible and just laying down the pain, just laying down the damage. So naturally, I would create a deck that would serve a similar function in here. That, and I was looking at the various different decks other people have made, and I've noticed the vast majority of them were monocolored decks. So pure purple, pure red, pure black, pure yellow, pure green, pure blue. Occasionally, you might see somebody with like a different colored card, usually white, because white's meant to supplement the other colors. But otherwise, most of the decks that I saw there were just monocolored. So I thought, how interesting would it be if I decided to rock a multicolored deck? Of course, at the time, creating multicolored decks wasn't necessarily the most viable for the TCG in general. But I thought that since red and green complement each other in different ways because of the way their playstyles function, I think making a red-green deck would work. That and the fact that I had familiarity with playing red-green, so I knew how red-green works, so having a red-green deck would pretty much feel right at home. So there was that. The other reason is because I wanted to create a red-green deck so I can stand out. Since, let's face it, back when I created this deck, there wasn't really much reason to create a multicolored deck, since there were so few cards that really benefited from having a multicolored deck. But now that we're starting to see more multicolored decks get made, decks like this will be more viable. So that's basically my reason for why I created this deck. And ultimately, while I am glad about how this deck turned out, I would like to make some improvements with this. Of course, I haven't actually been able to actually play the actual TCG. Bandai, make an online simulator for this game, goddammit. Or at the very least, release the online client, like, worldwide. So it's going to be a while before I can take this deck out for a test drive and actually get familiar with not just the card game, but also this deck to see where I can improve. Maybe swap out some Digimons for other Digimons. Maybe play around with different abilities that other Digimons might have. Something like that. And at the end of the day, I still want this to be a red-green deck. And that's going to come with its share of struggles. But again, as time goes on, I do think some of these struggles will be, well, remedied down the line. This is more of a long-term sort of deck that I'm pretty much trying to go with, rather than anything like short-term, if you will. So yeah, that's basically my red-green Digimon deck. Hold on, yeah, that's my red-green Digimon deck. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And while you're at it, you can check out my DeviantArt page, as well as my Tumblr. Yes, I now have a blog on Tumblr. So you can check that out as well. Granted, I only recently created it, so don't expect much. So until then, see ya.